Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we will be looking at a small trap which I just wanted to show you guys, which I learned like 3 or 4 years back, and it's played in the Sicilian Paulsen variation. Hence I've switched the board, so it's played with black, and obviously Sicilian can is played like e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4, cd4, and d4, a6. Now, as you see, okay, just don't look at the arrows right now. I'll explain everything simply, slowly. So why does black play the setup? Well, if you're a theoretical player and you've seen Sicilian theory, you know that when white plays open Sicilian, what is his main idea? He obviously queenside castles, eventually pushes all these pawns and attacks white's kingside. Black, on the other hand, tries to go with a counter with rook to c8 and try to attack his c file, semi-open file. Well, so that's one thing, and that's the reason I actually suggest playing Paulsen, because it avoids that. The reason being, if you see any variation in white never castles queenside. It's never been seen. If he plays it, that means he's theoretically weak, or he's probably doesn't know the opening theory, and that's when you can actually take him down easily by a setup which is very common. It's either you can play hedgehog, or you can just play the normal setup, and you can easily counter attack and win. So you never see this queenside attack, but you queenside castle, but you do see f4 g4 even if white castles kingside. And that's one variation which one also sees when black plays Najdorf. So if you can fend off an attack, if you play Najdorf, then you can do so when you play Can. So that was one of the reasons. Now, the Can openings actually played with this g6 bishop g7 setup, d6 queen c7, but we're not going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at the Paulsen variation, which doesn't involve the g6 bishop g7. So after a6, white obviously plays knight to c3, queen to c7, and now we have bishop to d3. He can either play bishop to d3 or bishop to e3. Let's look at bishop to e3 because it's a little easier to understand. Like, the threat is pretty explicit. So after bishop to e3, black usually goes with knight to f6, and after bishop to d3, black goes with this move, bishop to b4, pinning the knight and also attacking it. You realize he has a lot of attackers. Now, if white wants to play sensibly, he usually goes back bishop to d2. He doesn't mind the waste of tempo, but you would see this move, queen to d2, played a lot of times. And here's when your trick kind of starts. You play pawn to d5. Now, what is the idea behind this move? Well, when black plays Paulsen, this move is very important, and not only for this trap. You guys have to remember, if you can't push d5, then you're kind of in trouble, because you need the breakthrough, because white eventually starts attacking here, and you need this breakthrough to stop all the attack and like just break the king side. So you need this breakthrough, so always remember that. But anyways, in this case, the threat's actually more prevalent. So after e takes d5, you have knight takes d5, and now this knight's in a kind of tricky position. He has to go back knight to e2, and after something like knight takes e3, usually white really doesn't like losing the dark squared bishop he has. He likes to keep it. So instead of going through all of this trouble of giving his center pawn and letting your knight stay at d5, white usually plays this move f3, which is, I think, immediately a blunder. And if you guys want, you can pause the video right now and try to find the move. So I'll give you guys a second to pause. Okay, so those of you who got it, I mean, you can just see how white literally invites trouble. Well, for those of you who just didn't want to see it, didn't want to try and find it yourself, after f3, it's a two-move combination. Not even a combination, it's pretty simple logic. Play the move e5. Now let's scan all our options here. Okay, knight to d5 obviously doesn't work because this comes with a check, and then you can move your queen. So knight takes d5 isn't an option. E takes d5, you lose your piece, and after knight takes d5 here, you're really fine. Black's winning. you have to move the knight, obviously. Now that you've figured out, well, let's say knight to b5. Takes, nothing happening. Let's say knight to f5. Now here comes the move where white realizes it's all over. So after pushing this pawn, black has a decisive advantage, as you can see. So d4 and his knight's pin, he can move his knight, and anyways it's a double attack, so he eventually has to take this, and you're a piece for 2 pawns up. Actually, also in this position you can just take this, and after takes, this is way better for you because you're only losing 1 pawn and you're getting another piece. But I mean, after this usually he just goes something like queen to e2 or something. So usually white doesn't play knight to f5, he goes back knight to e2. And anyways, after pawn to d4, takes, black has a clear decisive advantage. He's a piece up, queen's still on the board, so it's not even like it's endgame where the pawns will matter. So yeah, it's as simple as that. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward trap. Also, the reason why this setup it's used so much is because most of the time this opening, queen c7, now it's been given importance, but a few years back many people didn't know this idea of queen c7 and they found it very peculiar. So a few years, if you talked about playing this a few years back, it would almost work like 90% of the time if anybody played this. Now that you know it's been used so many times, people have actually become aware of this, but still many people who don't study theory properly do fall prey to this, because you know in their mind they've painted a really bright picture of how, oh my god, these pieces are like in the middle, and like I'm gonna castle queenside, I'm gonna have such a good center with pawn, push my pawn on f3, it's gonna be a perfect dream position. But what he doesn't realize is these 3 pieces can completely destroy these 5 pieces along with the small pawn here, and he doesn't even have to develop all his pieces for it. So usually that's why they fall prey to this opening, this small little trap. And actually had a game again when I was playing Asian schools back in like 2009, where I played this and against someone from Kazakhstan, and when he played f3 after e5, he went knight to b3. Actually he went knight to b3, I think that's how it went. And after d4, takes, I think I took, and then he took with his queen, takes, and the game went on in the end game, and eventually I got like these 2 pawns, so he had to resign. The game got over pretty quickly, so that's what I'm trying to say. The game can end really quickly if white doesn't know what he's doing, so he has to use his brains. And for anybody who plays this type of setup with white and hasn't encountered this type of position yet, well, now you've learned it. You don't go f3. If you want to defend against this and you've played bishop to e3, although bishop to e3 is a mistake, I recommend playing bishop to d3 and immediately castling here. Just castle. There's no harm in that. For those of you who, however, who've played bishop e3 and on this position, I suggest just either go knight to e2 or go bishop to d2. Sometimes I've seen players who even castle, they'll let you take it. They let you take the pawn because they feel like they have tremendous compensation because of their developed pieces. Anyways guys, that was the trap. I hope you all enjoyed it. Do hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Do share the video as well if you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.